Wow, a watchtower, or at least a watchtower variant, against lizardmen with a slan. I struggled to deal with this blighted thing with a normal army. I was not looking forward to this. Still, you can see in the middle there we have what is the watch hill. Normal hill, whoever's closest to the middle wins the game. And I have to somehow budge Temple Guard off that. I start with it, and as you can see I've deployed a unit of Demonettes up there. Massive unit of 10 Demonettes with a Banner of Ecstasy. They're going to survive one turn, and oh my god, is it going to hurt. I've loaded quite heavily on the left flank there. You can see a unit of Hounds, the Bloodletters, the Furies, the Screamers, and the Fiend. And I'm playing quite aggressive with my BSB. I'm going to have to get stuck in order to win this game. To get this, I've got to somehow grind down the Temple Guard unit, get rid of the Frog, or deal with somehow grinding what you'll shortly see is a unit of 20. I kid you not. Sorry, not 20. It's a unit of 40 Saurus Warriors. I shudder to even consider that. You can see the second unit of Screamers, you can see the Flamers sitting over there. Further over we've got the second unit of Hounds, and in the forest you can just see two of them peeking out is another unit of Flamers. I'm looking to crowd the center and put as much pressure on them as possible, because the only way you make openings is by creating pressure. Then on his side, you can see on that same right flank he's got a unit of Chameleon Skinks. He has in the middle there a unit of Temple Guard with a Frog, a small unit of Hand Open Shields Saurus on the right. On the left is 40 Spear Saurus. And that's going to be fun to deal with. He's also got a single Salamander, and he has another unit of Chameleons. So this is a very condensed points army. It's incredibly difficult to take points off it if he plays defensively. Hoping by taking the watch hill there, I'm going to force him to get a little more offensive, maybe create an opening or two. This is not going to be an easy game by any stretch. So here's Tony wants to get off to a flying start. He declares a charge with both the Temple Guard and these Saurus Warriors. Big block. Really wanting to take that central hill and just force me to somehow try to budge him. Thankfully the Saurus Warriors don't make it, the Temple Guard unfortunately do. And once again I'm really grateful for the wonders of the Banner of Ecstasy. His Skinks, you can see it's move quite far up. They want to shoot my Flesh Hounds. And if we look on the other side, we see the other unit of Skinks has pulled the same stunt for those Flesh Hounds. His Salamander, and pay attention to where it is because it becomes important later, is moving on up trying to deal with my Plague Bearers. I'm not quite sure why, but he really wants to. His magic sees Throne of Vines up, and I dispel everything else he tries to cast. Oh, I love that Banner of Sundering. It really makes his life difficult. He basically has to use one more dice to reliably cast every spell than he normally would. Oh, and it just slows down the nightmare of the Frog. The Salamander managed to eat two of its three handlers, and each unit of Skink knocked off one dog. I'm okay with that. I can live with that. So, my reaction. So my Flamers in the forest charge his Skinks, and unsurprisingly flees. On the left side, I'm sorry I never got a picture of this, because this is actually really important. He'd gotten just close enough to shoot and be able to stand and shoot my Hounds with his Skinks, but he was just in range of that Fiend to not be able to stand and shoot. So the Fiend charged him, while crossing across into the flank of that Salamander, I declared a charge with the Flesh Hounds. And he held, and it's a wonderful thing he held, because where you can see that Sally right on the edge of the left side, there are 4 Flesh Hounds in base to base with him, which means, assuming they butcher him, and they need to butcher him, they get to overrun into the flank of that Temple Guard unit. The Temple Guard unit incidentally lost 4 Temple Guards to those Demonettes, which I think is a sterling action on the part of the Demonettes. So well done, girls. You're not going to survive this turn, but well done, girls. Now, it came up a number of times actually on the Demonic Legion forum. People don't rate Furies. I don't get why. However, here is a perfect example of why Furies are so good. I know my Flesh Hounds are likely to destroy that Salamander and overrun into the left flank of that unit of Temple Guard. So the first thing I did here was fly my Furies as far as they could to get right in front of that unit of Saurus Warriors. So when they hit there, he won't be able to support. He's going to have to charge those Furies, and where they are, angles, etc., they're not going to be able to get past the Temple Guard into the side of those Flesh Hounds. I've isolated his unit despite him having it sitting there ready to support him. And this is the absolute beauty of Furies, because as fast as Fiends are, it's just so hard to make those openings, especially when you're not allowed to move within 1 inch of an enemy. How do you do it? But a flying unit can just say, bugger this, I'm going straight over there. You can see the Screamers are setting up to just be bloody annoying on that flank, and at the end my Screamers on the other side did something rather similar. Now, if we take a look at the results, this is at the end of combat. Those 2 have finally died. I have managed to knock out more than half of that Temple Guard unit. This is actually looking manageable. And the Frog is not a happy man. No question about it, that Frog is a very unhappy man. And yeah, all for a throwaway unit of Demonettes and a cheap flanking unit of Flesh Hounds. I'm liking this more and more. And that unit's isolated, it's going nowhere. I know it sounds like I'm gloating. I am. I hate that Frog. Okay, on to his response. So his turn, he charges the big block into the Furies, and fair enough. I mean, otherwise I'm just going to hold him there forever. So, charges in, he's going to massacre them. His Skinks rally, and they're protecting flanks and all sorts of things. And his small unit of Saurus Warriors with hand weapon shields are moving up to protect the rear of his Temple Guard unit, which is well played, quite honestly. On the far left, I've already destroyed his other unit of Skinks, and that Soul Fiend is up right next to the big Saurus Warrior block. And yeah, we then have combat going on with these dogs. Before combat, quickly, and this is a solid lesson for everyone who's enamored of the Law of Life, he was really struggling here. The Banner of Sundering was dropping his Frog to effectively a level 2, and between that and me just letting him get Throne of Vines, I didn't bother casting anything in my turn, I was just dispelling Throne of Vines in my turn, and he needs to buff his life spells, but I just let him get Throne of Vines and I keep all my dice for the spells that matter, and it really, really hurt him. So anyway, if we take a look at the result here, he's finally managed to whittle down a fair number of those dogs, but he's down to 6 Temple Guard plus a Frog. This is doable. This is very, very doable. And we weren't quite sure about this one. But we played it there that after measuring our angles, that Plague Bearer actually now had a rear on that unit. I'm not sure if it's right or not. The Frog causes all sorts of grief with where its frontage and where its flank is. So we could have played this one wrong. But anyway, I'll move along very quickly from this photo because it's fuzzy and an eyesore. So, surprising no one here. I charge in my Bloodletters, I charge in my Plague Bearers, and my Flesh Hounds take a beeline after his second unit of Skinks. I really want them. What we can't see is the second unit of Flamers that actually runs up and is a bit off to the left, and the Screamers that now start whittling down that smaller unit of of Saurus warriors. Between the Saurus warriors being slashed by the screamers and a whole boatload of fire coming in from the flamers, they end up down to 1 rank. They get shot to pieces. And most importantly, as you can see at the top, the Fiend, angled off to prevent anyone overrunning into my models. And it's just a bad day to be fought with these Saurus warriors who just cannot get where they need to go. And once again, I'm loving this. The sheer amount of interference troops that I can bring to bear in this list just make it work. Okay, so the results of this, unfortunately the next couple of photos were too bad to include. These skinks break. I did not pursue them. I restrained. I wanted to turn and face flank in case anything went wrong with the Temple Guard. The Temple Guard all died, as did the Frog. He even managed to save a a killing blow, but the Frog bit the farm. He died. There was 1 Temple Guard left, and then my breath weapon from the Nurgle Herald split between the 2 of them, killed them both off. And I actually kept my Plague Bearers as they were. I wanted them hit in the rear with the little Saurus block, because he's in a bit of a desperate situation at that point. And, well, while you don't get to see the charge, you'll get to see the results in the next frame. And so here's the result of it all. He managed to charge, he charged me in the rear. Didn't help him a whole lot. He got beaten down, he got broken. The only thing left alive was a skink on 1 wound. That's about to get dealt with by units of screamers. And the single fleshhound on 1 wound went to replace the Fiend that died and could. And now this hill is looking like it's mine. It's going to be incredibly difficult for him to budge me now. I'm really liking this. Okay. And that's pretty much all she wrote from there. We start shooting and we move on to the next frame. So now I'm just surrounding him and shooting the tar out of him, slashing him with screamers. I'm just pulling so much damage onto this unit. It's now down to a real size unit. It's fantastic. The little unit of skinks has rallied at the top, and I'm really not particularly worried. I'm not going to take him on. There's no real good reason for it. All I actually need to do is just put something he can't break in front of him, take the hill, and then just magic and shoot him and force him to do something pointless. And so that's what I do. So we see now, I continue that. You can see a further whittled down unit. You can see there's 1 skink left alive after screamer slashing. I have Fleshhound sitting at the back there. I have Flamers ready to hit him in the flank, and he's not having a good day. I even managed to get Curse of Unrehair off, just to, really rub salt in the wound. And for his final turn, he's forced to charge. He's got nowhere else to go. He charges, and he just gets butchered. He loses almost half of his guys to the dangerous terrain tests, and those bloodletters are big enough to make it stick at that point. And that's it. Lizard's tabled. And I would never have thought it possible. So, yeah. Nice demons. Yeah, thanks all for the tournament. Thanks for listening. And special thanks to Eastern Barbarian, who pushed forward the idea of MSU. I didn't think it was workable. Awesome. Cheers.